Welcome you all on behalf of CBSE to this workshop on experiential learning. You are the lead collaborators from Prayagraj, Ajmer and Pune. We have already done 3 such sessions before this. The main purpose of doing this workshop is to onboard you about how to take it down to your hub schools and make it actually an experiential learning classroom in each and every school of your hub. The creators of this module, Dr. Anju Shahzad from Mahatma Gandhi International School, Ahmedabad, Dr. Bobby Abrol from Tata Trust, and Dr. Anusha Ramanathan from Tata Institute of Social Science. They are with us and they will help you to know how to go about it. Before I hand it over to them, I would request you to post your questions and comments in the chat box and clear your doubts. And you will also get a link of Blogspot where you will be submitting your assignments as well as your comments. So, Dr. Bobby Abrol, please, you can take it over from here.
Thank you so much, Ramaji. Thank you for the brief intro. And this is a sheer pleasure to be here with all of you, all the hub leaders. I'm Dr. Bobby Abrol from Tata Trust. I'll just explain the background in which this course was created, and then we'll move to the presentation. Can I request, someone who's presenting, I'll just... Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this course on experiential learning, this is launched this year in July 2020. But the conceptualization and the development of this online course started last year under the leadership of Ms. Anita Karwal, where CBSE mentioned that they want to sensitize their entire teaching community on experiential learning pedagogy. And with that in mind, 3 institutions, Tata Trust, Tata Institute of Social Science, and Mahatma Gandhi International School, the 3 institutions came together, and under the guidance of CBSE, this course was created. There were around 25 principals and teachers from CBSE who served as think tank in the initial conceptualization of this course. So this course is actually developed in a totally collaborative manner. And that is the spirit of collaboration which we really want all the hub leaders to take forward when they actually engage with this course, and when they share the information about this course with the teachers in their respective hubs. Not taking much time, I just want to ensure that all of you, all the hub leaders and all the teachers in your respective hubs should have done the course on Diksha platform. These are some of the icons, how this course will look like on your mobile phone or your website screen. Please look for these icons. And we are also we believe that most of you have already done the course before coming for this workshop. Without taking much time, I want to say that I would like to invite Dr. Anju Kazot, a renowned pedagogue with almost 25 years of experience in teacher training, innovative pedagogy, who's going to take us through a small workshop on how to make a cup of tea showing us the entire concept of project mapping. And over to you, Dr. Anju. Looking forward to the experience.
Thank you very much, Bobby, for the invite, and thank you very much, CBSE. Good afternoon and welcome to all our very esteemed hub leaders and principals and teachers who've joined us on this afternoon. We are looking forward to an interesting session, I hope. I'm based in Ahmedabad in the state of Gujarat. This is a school called Mahatma Gandhi International School, which is a school run under a trust of the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation. It was founded 22 years ago by myself, my husband, and my team. So we have been practicing experiential learning. The idea was to bring in an alternative way of learning so many years ago when we started it, and operationalize it in the classroom. Because if you don't sense those same things, if you don't sense the same joy, the interest, the challenges, then it cannot be replicated. So that's why, of course, the challenge again is at a mass scale and through online medium. How do we make an experience? How do we create an experience? So today's session will touch upon that. Essentially, we're going to be doing project mapping today. Why are we doing that? Because when you're talking about experiential learning, which is defined very simply as an interaction between self and the environment. And this definition is, of course, created by John Dewey, the father of experiential learning, Vygotsky, etc. Now, when you're talking about this interaction between the self and the environment, then you're coming out of the classroom and you're engaging with the learner context and you're engaging with the learner's interests, passions, all of those things are coming into it. So the motivation is much higher, the learning is purposeful. And of course, the most important part is also that it is interdisciplinary. It is not classified into silos, fragmented into subject knowledge, which may be useful at a much higher level, but at the from primary to upper primary to even secondary, to see the interconnectedness of knowledge bodies is very, very fundamental. And also the final thing about experiential learning and using projects is that we are moving away from textbooks. Now, textbooks were introduced in this country during the British rule. Gandhiji believed that textbooks are a form of enslavement. And while textbooks can be a very good guide for all of us as teachers, but it's also essential to move away and to do real life projects because there are many more opportunities. And more principally, I feel an autonomy to the teachers to decide what is useful, what is relevant to my context, to my learner's context. And I think that autonomy now the NEP 2020 is giving us, it is empowering us. So that is what we need to take. And our role, all of us, is to create a community of good practitioners, to share practices so that we can continually improve ourselves, share good ideas and implement them. So today, let's start off, and we're going to start off with a small, short exercise, which I propose to you, since we are around, 150. Wow, that's great. Wonderful. So I'm going to do an experience with you, and we're going to do it through the imagination and memory. So I'd invite you first to close your eyes, and I'm going to do it along with you. So I want you to just close your eyes and put the palms of your hand on your thighs and uncross your legs. Put your bodies in a comfortable position with your back rest straight but comfortable, and take a deep breath. And exhale, and with that exhalation, you are throwing away all the tensions, all the distractions which are there in your mind, and bringing your awareness back to your body, into the here and now. Take another deep breath. And exhale. And then letting go of anxieties and worries, tensions of professional, personal nature, everything. And becoming aware of yourself, your core self. And taking another third deep breath. Exhaling and becoming more focused with yourself. Becoming more aware of your body and all that you're feeling. And finally, with one breath, you let go and become more and more relaxed. Your breathing is even centered, grounded in your hands, and you're bringing it closer to yourself. As you pick this up, feel the weight of this particular cup or glass, its form, its texture. How heavy is it? What does it feel like in the palm of your hands? And then try to sense the temperature through your imagination. Is it cold, cool, warm, hot? And you bring this cup slowly closer to your nose as you smell and inhale the wonderful aroma. Take a breath and feel the sensation of the different kind of aroma coming into your body, whether it's tea or coffee or fruit juice. And now I want you to imagine that you're taking a sip from the cup. If it's hot, blow on it, feel the temperature, and take a small sip. Very gentle, and you are now allowing the taste to infuse your mouth and feel all your taste buds awakening to this wonderful taste. Feel the sensation. Feel the sensation. And as you taste it, enjoy it. Allow it to bring greater relaxation and greater benefit to you. Become aware of all the senses, the cup in your hand, the weight, the sensation, the temperature, the aroma, the taste. And now you can pose your imaginary cup back on your table and slowly open your eyes gently in a state of complete relaxation and focused. So welcome back. I hope you were all able to enjoy your imaginary drink. And remember, when we can't do it really, we always have our imaginations to take us on a journey. So I'm going to start today's presentation now. And this is a presentation which is based on co-creative experiential learning. And this is based also on a movement that I'm part of, which is called École de Tara. École in French means school. And Tara is the name of our daughter, my husband Pascal, who's French, and myself. Tara was 12 years old when we lost her in 2014. And since Tara was such a happy child, coming out of that grief, we decided to continue our journey to bring more happiness to children. Tara was, or rather is, a very evolved soul wherever she is in her energetic form. And today, what I'm sharing with you is precisely this message that all our lives, as children, as young adults and human beings, must be focused on well-being and joy. And when we're talking about learning, remember, our academic experiences, unfortunately, for a long time have created a lot of artificial stress. And as you know, stress creates adrenaline, it creates a fight or flight response in us, and that is very harmful and toxic for our health. At the time of pandemic, when we are talking, remember that immunity, when you're talking about immunity, the best immunity is your state of mind. And if your state of mind is relaxed and happy, then you will be able to ward off and prevent a lot of diseases entering or fight them off. So that is an important part. That is why the reason of actually encouraging in our school and learning spaces a happy, joyful, experiential learning. Now, let's look at this project mapping on today's session. And I've chosen, of course, as you can guess, how to make a good cup of tea.
Dr. Anju, we're not able to see your presentation.
Okay. Let me just stop sharing and I'll try to again.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying again. Some of you can see it apparently, Bobby, so I'm not sure if it is only you or everyone else. So
Yes, madam. Even I cannot able to see.
You're not able to see, oh dear, okay.
Yes, madam.
Okay. Please let me know if you can see it now.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, we can see it.
You can see it, okay.
Yeah,
So I hope you can see the slide that says the experiential learning model.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
stop. Thank you so
No,
much.
ma'am, I can't.
Thank
No, ma'am, no, ma'am.
You need
I
to press
think we
the.
can't see.
Yes, madam, we can see
No,
now.
ma'am, I can't.
Oh dear. Okay, so some
Those who
can
can't
see and
see
some
need to
cannot.
pin the presentation.
Ma'am, half
We
the
are able to see.
Yes,
and half the participants cannot see.
yes, ma'am.
Half of
Okay, it seems half can see and half cannot see.
Everyone, they
Okay,
need
let
to
me
pin the
try.
presentation.
It is visible, Dr. Anju.
Stand listening.
Okay. Okay, so I'll try. Anyway, it's being recorded also, I believe. So if there are any issues, I think participants should be able to see the recording. So the experiential learning model, you've already been aware of this in the
Can we
course, the
request one?
experiential learning course that you've done. Can we ensure that all the mics are off, please, and muted? Yes, thank you so much. So the experiential learning model, you've already been aware of this because you have done the course on the Diksha platform. And in that, you will see that the first part, there's a cycle which begins with expressing prior notions of the children, where children are allowed or encouraged to express in any form. And the reason that we are doing the expressing of notions or preconceived notions is to see what are the ideas that children are already coming with into the classroom. What is their sense of the topic or the activity that you're going to be doing, and that we try to get back through feedback by different kind of activities like role plays, etc. We will look at that from the expressing of notions, which also allows children to express prejudices, biases that sometimes children have due to wrong notions as well, or erroneous notions about certain things. From the immediate feedback discussion, based on that, you're going to exploring and researching on whatever you are aiming to do in the project, again with a small reflection. Then you're going to create something. Now, this is an important thing. Project-based learning means in the project, you should create something. You should be doing something at the end of it. That if you don't have that, then it will remain an abstract topic and it will not be a active thing. It won't be concrete for the child. So again, creating, experimenting, it allows children to experiment, and there's a feedback. And then, of course, there's a larger reflection of all the experiences collectively with feedback to each other. So this is a model which has been already there on the platform. Let me share some of the kind of experiential learning projects that we can do, which are by their own nature interdisciplinary, and also they're meaningful to the learner. So I have just randomly picked up, well, not randomly, I have picked up deliberately a couple of projects that I feel are easy to do in any school context. And in fact, it can even be done during the lockdown period with children at home. One of the projects is what we call the cafeteria project. We started this 20 years ago in our school. And in fact, in 2016, Finland, which is a very progressive country in terms of education, made the cafeteria project mandatory in all its schools in primary schooling. So this cafeteria project, if you see on the left-hand side on the small photograph, children are bent over a chart paper, and they are actually tracking what have they eaten themselves in their tiffins. So they're tracking their own food habits, deciding whether it's healthy or not healthy, deciding on recipes that they would like to make if they want to make a good food, tasting it, experimenting it, finalizing a recipe, going out and making purchases after calculating, coming back into the school, making the food, and then serving it. So that becomes one interdisciplinary module which touches many subject domains from mathematics, languages, sciences, etc., as you can well guess. Another project would be the filmmaking project, where children pick up a social issue of their choice. It may be, and they decide to make a 1 or 2 minute films, just a short film either on animals that they love or a grandparent's story, anything like that. And then in the scripting, they have the language, in the filming, in the lighting and the sound, they have physics, there's mathematics in the budgeting, there's ethics, there's social issues, there's technology when they're looking at the what are the softwares they need to use, how do they need to do some basic editing, there's visual language, graphics, there's so many things that you can bring in. Even subtitling will bring in language if they have to make subtitles. So all of these are interdisciplinary projects that can easily be done, and competencies are covered through them. Let me take you a little deeper into one project, which we can, let's call it a waste management solution project. So here again, like in the previous slides, you've seen we are always beginning with the child's own life, own context. We are not in a model where the teacher is bringing in a topic and doing a show and tell, or teacher is bringing in models to demonstrate. We are asking children, you go out of your classroom, go to your homes, go on the school campus, pick up things and bring them. So here, for example, children were tracking their own eating habits, and they got after 3 days or 4 days, whatever waste materials, packaging materials have been used in the foods that they've consumed. And they bring that and they begin to sort out the different materials. So you can see that they're categorizing it, then they're also weighing it to see what's the weight of the materials that they have generated. Then they're also examining their packets to see what are the ingredients that are going into their bodies, what is permitted color, what does that mean, preservatives, what is MRP, what is VAT. All these things, depending on the age of the child, you can go to any level that you want, just examining the packaging of the things that they are consuming. From there, you can go deeper into understanding what are imported products which are coming from multinational companies, what are made locally, etc. And then you have also, of course, going on to needs and wants. How much do you really need in terms of survival or thrival, and how much is it that is based on your desires to procure more and to consume more? And how is it that you're being manipulated to become consumers? So actually, to make our children in a society that is pushing us to consumerism, to make them more critically aware of what they're purchasing and how they are being used even as vulnerable targets to purchase more. So from there, they go into awareness campaigns to make others aware that every time you buy a packet of popcorn or biscuits or whatever, just be aware of how much wastage you're generating. Such a project has, of course, potential to integrate a lot of subject areas, including obviously visual arts, where you can see the Diet Coke can, the life cycle of a can is seen here, graphic arts, through posters, campaigns that they're making, languages, and of course linked to environment. So these are very, very obvious links that you can be making. When you're doing that, the whole issue is that how do you make this operational in a school context? And for that, we are going to be learning the project mapping. For example, in this waste management solution, we added the word creating a waste management solution. The moment you've added the word creating, you're already giving it a direction, because there is something, there's going to be an outcome of this. And in that, there are 3 different branches. For example, they're running a campaign, they're collecting different kinds of packages from home, and they are designing an eco-friendly container. So if you look at very quickly all the words in red, you will see that they're all active verbs: identifying, making, collecting, analyzing. So all the processes are mapped in terms of active things that the children are doing. And this is a little trick when you're mapping it with your teachers. Remember to use active verbs, and that will give it movement, it will give it direction and energy and make it active. Let's also briefly look at what's the difference between an activity and a project. Both are important in our classrooms, but an activity is based on instructions, it is instant. Whereas a project would be more long-term with different stages of action and anticipated outcomes. And children have more opportunities to experiment in a project and apply what they've learned, even gain new insights. To take an example, a role play could be an activity. It's a short activity. It may be used to check prior learning of the children, or it could be also used as part of formative assessment, where you might just say, all right, very quickly do a short role play on what we've done, and let us see how you're showing that. But preparing a play, let's say as an awareness campaign for a social issue, would be a project. And then you are mapping the play, the preparation of the play in terms of content. And when you're mapping that, you'll have all the processes like dialogues, costumes, space, lighting, budgets, poster making, etc. And then after that layer of processes, you're adding the different disciplines and competencies as a last layer related to different subject areas. Similarly, if you're saying what is electricity, that remains a topic. I would request all teachers to really think very deeply about this, because there is a very big difference between a thematic topic, between what's a theme and what's an active project, which is real life. A theme will remain abstract, and nobody's saying we shouldn't do themes. But if all our education is just topics and themes, we will never actually get into action and actually learn the real life skills that we should be learning. So if we want to transform what is electricity as a topic into a project, then maybe looking at what is a kind of electricity wastage in their school or in their home or in their classroom could be a good thing. And for doing that, they'll be doing surveys, collaborating, making plans, posters, etc. Similarly, what's a healthy diet remains at the level of a topic. But if you're actually making a dish which is healthy, then you are investigating into what's a healthy recipe, you're doing surveys, you're choosing the dish, making the ingredients, and of course, learning all the things that go around it, making a prototype and taking feedback from others. So there's a difference between activity and project. So today what we're going to look at is the project, and we've taken how to make a good cup of tea as the project to map, because that's easy and nobody can think, or well, very few people would think how many things you can learn just by making a simple cup of tea. Of course, there's a whole, tea can be a metaphor because, you know, we are like tea. We don't know our own strength until we are in hot water, says Sister Bush. And then sometimes you all need is a good cup of tea. Tea is kind of a journey. Where there's tea, there's hope. So tea can represent so many things already at a metaphorical level. And therefore, it provides me scope to do things. It has a purpose. Now let's look at the mapping part. So you've got the title of the project, which is making a good cup of tea. So you already have the verb form, which is there. Okay. And now from there, so there's an outcome, a clearly defined outcome. There's in fact a product which is there at the end of this project or module, if you want to call it. Now in this project, your first step would be the initial representations or the preconceived notions, as we said in the cycle. So this is going to be, now the whole thing about this project mapping is, how are you going to do it? How are the teachers going to test the preconceived notions? Classroom में आप लोग कैसे इसको करो आप कैसे करेंगे? तो ये जो mapping detail में है, the mapping will allow you to go into those steps so that later on you're not stuck wondering how to do this and you don't waste time. So for example, I can test the preconceived notions in many ways. They can be a quiz, I can do through a role play, a freeze frame, a mime or a game, all of these different things. In the mapping of the airplane module, we've also seen that the children do it through a mime, where they mime a flying object in the class, in the films that you saw on Diksha. So this is kind of an initial representation. The other part when you're mapping, which is really important, and you need to do this also in your class later on, but right now we're looking only as a collaborative exercise amongst teachers, it is why am I doing? What's the purpose of this project? Is it beneficial to the learner? Is it going to help the learner's life in some way? If yes, then it's a good purpose. But if it is just a purely academic exercise where the children are going to write an essay and you're going to put in the drawer, after marking it, the child also knows this is not useful. So the usefulness is very important, the purpose. And here, let's say the tea is important because it's part of our culture. I can make it for myself, I can make it for others, etc. The other part would be, the next step would be to do the research on the particular thing that you want to do. So if it is making a cup of tea, then they might want to look out what are the, let's do a survey. कौन चाय पीता है हमारे आसपास? Who all are drinking? Maybe we need to go on field trips to see in some shops what kind of tea is, you know, made available. We need to ask experts, maybe how do they make tea? Experts, maybe even our grandparents. We can look on internet and we can go through books. So the survey would mean the questions and interviews, and that automatically brings in language. If you're looking on the internet, there's IT, etc. There's critical thinking also when you're looking at sources of information. Research would also be on health. What is the health impact of a cup of tea? And health would mean linked to biology and nutrition. So naturally, I'm going towards nutrition and biology, because if you boil certain kinds of tea too long, too much of tannin becomes bad for health, too much of sugar may not be that good for health, etc. So health issues related, positive and negative aspects of the tea. Types of tea again, from the history of tea to the chemistry. When you boil certain kinds of tea should not be boiled and some need to be boiled. So the difference between green and black tea, geography, where is it grown, economics of tea, looking also, let's say, for a higher class, looking at issues of tea workers in Assam might bring in other social issues. And not to forget the culture and the folk tales. the different cultures drink tea differently, from India to China to Japan, and there's a lot of scope to bring in a multicultural learning. From the research part, where the children share their research with each other in subgroups. Okay.
Hello, ma'am. Sorry to barge.
Yes, sure.
Ma'am, please present your screen again. Someone was interrupted between.
Okay, okay. Yes, resume. One second.
It's visible now.
It's visible now? Good, okay. Just let me go to the full screen, because otherwise... Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. So
Yes,
now
ma'am.
we're going to the plan of action, which is, of course, making the cup of tea. And there you can see that there's a cost factor, which will obviously come in. Mathematics, measures, proportions will come in the making of the tea. So that is a step. So when you're deconstructing the different steps, you will automatically see what are the subject areas that are coming in naturally. Of course, with utensils, you might need to identify utensils, the processes, the simple machines, there are ingredients that are going to go into it. The kids might be doing surveys, they will make a prototype. Now remember, when they're doing surveys, they're actually gathering real data. This is very different from the artificial data which is there in textbooks, because this real data means something for them. So if they've done a survey of how many people like green tea and how many people like black tea and how many people like regular tea with cardamom and spices, then they can make their own pie charts, they can make bar graphs out of it. This data means something from them. These numbers have a meaning. These are not just abstract symbols for them. So there's a context to the data that they are collecting, and therefore it is much easier. So of course, in the plan of action now, they are actively doing, they're creating the plan to think about what is the time requirement, space, how we're going to do it, etc. And here again, you will have a lot of subject areas that would naturally come in, like languages or sciences. The fourth step would be the action itself, actually going into the making of it. So there again, of course, they make the tea, they get the feedback, there's a survey again. A lot of life skills are going to happen at the time of action, remember. It's not when you're doing a theme or a topic that any life skill can come in. Life skills will happen in the doing of the things that children do. So then there's management, there's collaboration. When they're making things, kuch jal jata hai, kuch kam ho jata hai. So that's the time they have to think creatively. How do they interact with their, customers, etc. The fifth part would be then the reflection. Now remember, reflection is there at every step. जो भी आप एक्टिविटी क्लास में करते हैं उसके एंड में एक छोटा सा रिफ्लेक्शन 5-10 मिनट का होना चाहिए. ओके, व्हाट डू यू थिंक वी लर्नड? बिकॉज व्हेन यू टॉकिंग अबाउट एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग, if you don't have a reflection, it will just remain at a surface level for the child. बच्चे को लगेगा बहुत मजा आया, हमने अच्छा, we enjoyed ourselves, and maybe they may say one thing that they've learned. They won't be able to articulate the learning. So metacognition, as you all well know, is very important. But what I'm suggesting is metacognition not only the end of the entire activity, but at all the different steps, a little bit of reflection is. So research, if the children done research and presented to each other, then a quick reflection on the research. ये research में हमने कुछ research किया, what was useful out of the things that we researched on, what can we change, what were the strategies that we used for research, or maybe some of the strategies didn't work, we went overboard, हमने बहुत ज़्यादा material हमने select कर लिया and it was not useful to us. So their strategies, all these things, there would be a reflection at every stage. Now in the final reflection overall of the full project, it may be written or oral reflection. And once the reflection is done, when you're doing the reflection, remember on the Diksha platform, you've seen that the teachers, my colleagues, both Meenu and Ravinder, who asked the class group, what did you learn? How did you learn it? And why did you learn it? What, how, and why? So when the children are writing bullet points for each of these, that is a time they're able to articulate their learning. And then, of course, very important that they share with each other also, because in the sharing, they will learn more things about their learning. So overall reflection is very important. And of course, a lot of analysis comes in, a lot of critical thinking and awareness comes in. So once you've done the mapping of the processes, you can see that the subject areas are naturally falling into the next layer. As you're mapping, you will see यहाँ पर biology आ जाएगा, यहाँ पर science आ सकता है. And this is by no means exhaustive. I've just generally put there are many more steps where you could add in more subjects. But let's say these are the subject areas. The final step in the mapping would be to add the learning outcomes, because without that we know that we're not fulfilling the course content. So as you know, all the learning now is competency based. So competencies give us greater freedom to do any project, because all you have to do is ensure that that particular competency is fulfilled. The CBSE is not telling you कि इसको textbook में ही ये chapter के through ही आप कराइए. The new mandate through the NEP 2020 and the CBSE is saying the textbook is a guide, but if you're fulfilling the competencies as laid down by the NCERT in any which way, then you've fulfilled your duty as a responsibility as an educator. So here, to take just random examples from the competencies which are laid down, look at that. I can go to any grade level. So making a cup of tea, I can do at grade 4, grade 5, grade 7, 8, whatever. Grade 4 mein dekhiye, they can use connections between words and sentences such as first, next. They can read subtitles on TV. Grade 5, they can interviewing people around them, grandparents. ये भी सब उसमें आ जाता है. Attempts to write creatively, making posters for tea. Grade 6, participating in activities like role play, etc., engaging in conversations. Grade 7, grade 8, writing formal letters, descriptions, reports. All of this would be of, can be linked to the T. You can write texts, etc., create the context. And also maybe...
Again, the first image has gone.
Okay, sorry. I think, are you able to see the screen and hear me clearly?
We can hear you, miss, but somebody
The screen is gone. Yeah,
again is gone. Yeah.
Yes, I think somebody must have pressed...
Present now.
Please do not press present your screen icon on screen, and pin the name which is presenting. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Now we can see.
Okay. So I'm back to, I was just talking about English. And I was just saying that also, let's say you could hypothetically, you could create a skit with a historical figure or a character who is having tea and you're having a discussion around tea, or you could have a hypothetical discussion with the CEO of a company who is selling tea. It could be Wagh Bakri, it could be any Indian brand of tea as well. So of course, it is up to the creativity of the teachers and the age level of the child and the group. So the other competencies, we can look at mathematics, ratios, of course, 3D objects. So if you ask the children to get different kinds of cups in which they're drinking tea or the family is drinking tea, then a lot of analysis of these objects can be given, can be done. Then collecting information on expenditure of the tea in the last 6 months, then creating a bar graph, pictogram, grade 7 and 8, interpreting the data in bar charts, calculating profit and loss. And look at the original competency says interprets data using bar graphs. It is consumption of electricity. So it could be electricity, it can be tea, it can be anything. So this kind of data becomes more meaningful to the child. In the environmental sciences too, it's very obvious again, a lot of different things come in. For example, identifying objects. This is in grade 3, all the vessels, the activities that people do, the cooking processes, guessing properties and quantities, estimation of quantities. I want to bring to your attention that sometimes we come out of schooling and we don't even know what's a kilo of sugar or potatoes. What's the feel of it? Just holding it in your hands. So estimation of quantities, writing 1 kilo of sugar on a piece of paper is not the same thing as feeling it in your hands and knowing it. So the concrete experience for the child is really important. Similarly, grade flow, a lot of phenomena that they can again guess the standard, coming to standard units, etc. Looking at different processes, cause and effect, evaporation, condensation. Grade 5, recording the observations more in terms of in an organized manner. All those learning will be there very easily. In science, again, classification of materials is there, of the plants itself, learning scientific concepts. Grade 8, something as simple as, use of fertilizers and pesticides. What is the effect of the pesticides on the tea that we are having, because the tea leaves are sprayed by it. So what does it do to our bodies? Here, of course, the example in the competency as laid down is why do we, as an example, why do we add salt and sugar in pickles and murabbas? So, ये जो actual thing, when we are connecting with our kitchens, even during lockdown, this can be done. Why are we doing these particular things? There's a scientific reason for it. So that can be done by children very easily. Social sciences, again, of course, physical features of where the tea grows, the relationship between environment and the plant and the lives of the people, maybe creating advertisements for your tea, exploring different markets, etc. And I like the one in the grade 8, the last one that I've selected here, explains how the English East India Company became the most dominant power. And look at that, when the East India Company came to the country, they came for spices, but they also then began to export other things, including tea, which went to other parts of the world. And then we can also explore that and remember the Boston Tea Party, and so much of tea is there in our history as well. So one can go on exploring at different levels. So the content will come in later. The idea of today's session is to help you explore and maybe ensure that you can pass on this message to your teachers. The content is there around us in our lives. The whole issue is, how do you map the content? How do you map the learning onto a real meaningful activity or a project? And if you begin with content, you'll be trapped in your identity as a language teacher, maths teacher, science teacher. But if you do a project in a collaborative way, then you're coming out of the content and you're actually first doing the project and then naturally coming to your content at the end of it. So don't start with the content, end with the content. That's the thing. Just a last look at the mapping of the project of making an airplane that was done in the as the module that you've all done on Diksha. And this is the mapping done by teachers on chart paper. Very important that don't do your mapping sequentially. आप भी इसको chart paper पे या digital जैसे भी करें, इसको non-linear ways पे करें. Actually, as a mapping जहाँ अलग-अलग चीजें जा रही हैं, because this is going to make you break free from this analytical, sequential, linear mode of doing things. In life, we don't necessarily do everything in a linear mode. This will allow the complexities to emerge at a glance. So just to look at the different stages of initial representation, of the process, of the action, and the research of the, presentation of the research, etc. So all these things are there, and you can see the initial representation. Activity number 1 was miming an object. Activity 2 is bringing the objects into the class, and then they are classifying it, etc. And of course, you have also other processes, action, for example. The children selected their own criteria for their own prototype of the airplane they were making. So whether it's a rocket or a glider or, what kind of paper plane they want to make, and they give each other feedback, etc. So all these things, this is a process mapping. This is not a content mapping. Content comes in later. So that's the thing that you need to know. Why are we doing this today? As Bobby mentioned it initially, by doing the mapping yourselves, you are learning what are the issues that go into it, what is easy, what is difficult and challenging, and how you can bring in a team of people to do this. So any grade level, a group of 5, 6, 7 teachers can do a mapping, and that exchange becomes very meaningful. Let's, as I end this presentation, just like to end it with this little sentence that each cup of tea represents an imaginary voyage. So the idea of a journey, and life itself is a journey. So the tea is a metaphor for so many things, but life's a journey. So now let's close our eyes and let's do a little journey, okay? So very quickly, I want you to just close your eyes for half a minute. Just taking a pause because I've rushed through everything because of time limits, to stick to the time, because I know you're all busy. So just taking a little pause now and closing your eyes, taking a deep breath, allowing everything to integrate with your awareness, all that we've seen or whatever you've heard and listened to, and now creating an intention that we will all succeed as educators in bringing this joyful experiential learning into our classrooms. So visualize yourself doing this project mapping with your colleagues, with your team members, Everybody's excited and happy. See the expression of happiness in your colleagues, excitement of doing new things that are close to the teachers' hearts also. Enjoying that freedom to map things, allowing yourself to enjoy the freedom of doing new things that connect with your learners. And then finally, imagining the joy, looking at the joy on your children's faces, the happiness which is there. That is the real gift that we can give to them as educators. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you. And I will pass on now to Bobby to take you further.
Yeah, I think so. Just as we are starting, I know we've had a few interruptions. This is Anusha, and we just wanted to address one of the questions very quickly before we move on to the next part, which is a question that says, how do we collate everything together? And a simple way of doing it, ma'am, and everyone, would be to just for now, as Anju took us through this exercise of reflecting in a way, to try and collate one or two takeaways that you had from here. If you can put them on the chat, we are telling you more about what the assignment and how we can continue these discussions and how we will continue the engagement for the next webinar and towards the next webinar, how we can continue talking with. But in the meantime, what are the kinds of things that you thought the project could take uh, when you're talking about collation? What were the key things that were spoken about? Anyone who can type in and chat?
I think it's creativity, collaboration,
To
proper
take
communication,
activities from
and
children. Yes, definitely to engage the children in the activity is one of them. And anything else?
analyzing.
Analyzing. Yes. So would it be your analysis or the student's analysis? Involvement.
Both involvement.
Yes, and both your analysis and the students' analysis. Yes, and give a project class wise is absolutely there. Multidisciplinary activities, absolutely. So these are what we are trying to bind together and to talk about as a design. And that's one of the things that Anju has been consistently showing in her PPT, right from the activity, the first activity of food, to the next one of tea, to the third one of paper plane, is to try and understand those experiences of the child. Thank you, Mr. Avinash Kulkarni. Yes, giving more experiences to the child is the fundamental aspects. And we can look at it. Thank you so much. Those are the elements of what is experiential learning, how virtual experience, maybe not virtual experience, but definitely the experience in a sense of any way that we can have them in understanding the problems and looking at how knowledge can be generated. And enriching the way. Yes, those are the things. Bobby, you want to take over and talk about what we have to do with this insights that has been gained?
Thank you so much.
Bobby,
Yes.
are you presenting?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, madam.
Anju, if you can stop presenting, then maybe Bobby can present hers. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Anju. Thank you, Dr.
Bobby, will you
Anusha.
be presenting? We
Yeah,
can't hear you.
Hello.
Yes, madam, we can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear, yeah.
Okay. So I'll just my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, madam.
Is my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So after having this wonderful experience of experiential learning with Dr. Anju, now is the time where I think all of you must be keen to know that what is the role that hub leaders are going to play in this endeavor. So as I have mentioned that this experiential learning pedagogy is a very significant approach which CBSE wants to undertake with all their teachers, and now it is part of national education policy, so it's all the more important for us. Um, I'll take 2 minutes to just reflect on the fact as leaders, what is it that we can do? So there are a couple of ways. So one way, which is the most traditional way of teacher training, is one way transmission of information, or the cascade model of information, and which actually can be seen here. Like, the teachers and hub leaders have done the online course, and after course now we are having this virtual workshop with the hub leaders, and then all the hub leaders can actually tell the teachers, go and just do the course, and we finish it here. But I think that is not the intent and the spirit with which this course has been created. We really want all the hub leaders to not just to play a role as an administrative head, but play the role of a pedagogical leader. A pedagogical leader, again, a concept which CBSE really wants to promote among the hub leaders. So after doing this virtual workshop, which we have done today, um, we actually ideally imagine that all the hub leaders will activate their hubs of learning, which means one hub leader will have 5 to 8 schools in their hubs of learning, and you have to activate them in the sense, first inform all the teachers about this course on Diksha platform, share all the resources which are shared with you. Once the teacher have done the project mapping exercise, which we'll explain soon, that exercise we wish that you undertake in a collaborative manner. So collaboration for an assignment, I think we one of the hub leaders rightly mentioned collaboration as a skill. So the best we can draw out of it, if we as teachers collaborate to undertake an assignment on project mapping. So kindly get in a group of 5 to 7 teachers from your hubs of learning, and then take this project of project mapping. And we'll not just stop there. There is a blog spot where you are supposed to submit the assignment, and you can also share your reflections, your challenges which you have experienced while undertaking this project. So the idea is to complete the loop and make it and not leave it a unidirectional transformation of information from the top to the bottom. So this is the idea and the spirit with which we really want experiential learning to be part of pedagogy of all the teachers. Now I'll explain the group assignment. So the way Dr. Anju has explained, a simple act of making a cup of tea, and creating a project around that. Similarly, you will take a project topic and decide a grade level. The project must contain active verb, as she mentioned, making, doing, creating, and it should have a, a very explicit outcome. And for those outcomes, you will refer to the document she has shared. You will map the processes of learning with different stages, and all these stages, which Dr. Anju has taken us through in her presentation, these are also there in the Diksha in the online course which is on Diksha platform. So all of you who have done the course will be able to relate with all these terms, which will help you to map the process of learning. Once you've done that, you will also need to layer it with the mapping it with learning outcomes. And for that, we'll refer to the document. This document is available on NCRT website. It's called Learning Outcomes. For submission, you can draw your project mapping on a piece of paper. Either it can be handwritten, or you can use any digital tool of mind making tool which are available. and create a project map. Now, once you've done the assignment, you I mean, for this to you'll submit on a Blogspot, and my colleague Dr. Anusha will explain about the Blogspot, and that is the Blogspot where you will uh, submit the assignment, but title it this way: name of your COE or regional office, uh, your hub code, and the name of the hub leaders. You will finish the assignment within 4 days of the virtual workshop. So if it is Wednesday today, we expect that you submit the assignment by Sunday end of the day. So this is about the assignment. And yes, one more thing. Once you have done the submitted the assignment on the Blogspot, to keep the discussion alive, we actually want hub leaders and teachers to give peer feedback to at least one of the assignment on the Blogspot. And this is the peer feedback rubric which Dr. Anju has created. You can refer to it to finish your, to evaluate or to just share your reflection on your colleagues' project. All this information, like the rubrics, the sample project mapping exercise, all of this information is already there on the Blogspot, which is there for all the CBSE teachers. Now I'll hand it over to Dr. Anusha to explain us about the Blogspot and how we can actually post our assignment there. Over to you.
Thanks, Bobby. I will also start presenting, and in case you are not able to see my presentation, it would be good if you are able to pin our respective names to the presentation. And so what I will do is take you to the Blogspot. One of you had asked, how will we see it? So the link already has been shared, cbsewebinar.blogspot.com. And when you come here, the first thing you see is the workshops on experiential learning for these dates. And you will have seen quite a few comments. In addition to that, all these resources that we are sharing are all loaded out here already. So for one of the things that Blogspot will do is it will not show you the URL link straight off. But if you just select this, you can copy and you can paste it into another link as such, and you will be able to see here you will be able to view, and of course you can download and you can print, etc. So this is how all the resources will be shared in the link. And so you have the project outcome of a cup of tea. You have all the other resources that we are sharing in addition to what Bobby just shared as guidelines and rubrics for your assignments, etc. In addition to this, we are asking for the assignments, and we are trying to connect with you, and we have been replying to you as far as we can. We will be continuing to do this. You can enter your comment, you can post anything as such, maybe your project name. It could be the project plan name, as what Bobby was saying. And you could have the team members who were involved in making that and their names. So that could come in as one or two in that sense. You could present these elements, and you can have the link or multiple links. Link 1 could be the plan, link 2 could be explanation, where you have it, or maybe all of them are just one link. It really depends on you. And you could post the link out here. Please notice that there is this button that's called Notify Me. By default, it is not checked, but it is advisable that you check it, because then when you check the Notify Me, if any replies come to it, you will be immediately getting an email notification about the fact that someone has been able to, has commented on your, aspects, and you can publish it. Now, just to talk about the link, please ensure that when you are sharing the link, that you, of course, can copy paste the link, but it is important that it is visible with anyone can share. So it should be anyone with this link can view. In case it is restricted, then please click on the change button that comes right below. And when you link on it, these are the two options that are available to you on your personal drive. And please ensure that you click anyone with link. They can view it, they won't be able to delete it, edit it, nothing. And you can click on the copy link, click on done, and you can come here and copy paste, the paste the link here, so that anyone with the view can anyone with the link can view it. I am not going to do this thing that is called publish, simply because then I will have to delete it again. But this is how, as easy as possible, for you to share all your details in terms of reflection, in terms of engagement. In case you want to add on to a point, all that you need to do is ensure that you can reply to your comment, and then in the reply you can add on the same details as the point that you would like to talk about. So you can definitely enter your reply and add on to the thing so that it's a single thread. I hope this explains it. We are looking forward to learning with you. We are hoping to see more activities. There are 3 activities that today Ms. Dr. Anju shared with us, but there are many more activities that we know we will learn about from you. And project planning, in a sense, is the way forward. Yes. Bobby, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Anusha. Kritik.
Bobby, would you like to take that question?
How are we supposed to ask the hub team to get together with us? Because essentially they would also have had to go through the experiential module. And 4 days to get in touch with everybody and then asking them to go through the experiential module and then doing this task. I don't know if you could give some more clarity on this.
Right, ma'am. So in ideal scenario, like what we have been given the information that almost 50% of the CBSE teachers have done the course. If that is not the case, then of course it'll be difficult. So first very foremost thing is that you will communicate this information in your hubs of learning for all the teachers to undertake the course.
Right.
And if possible, then let's have those teachers who have done the course, a group of those teachers from your hubs of learning. So if each school has one teacher who has done the course, then they can form a group and conduct this project mapping exercise. So ma'am, right now you're the hub leaders, and the whole idea is that we to transform pedagogical practices, hub leaders go forward and engage with teachers and their hubs of learning. We understand in 4 days that will be difficult, but if there are teachers who are voluntarily coming to collaborate, that'll be the best scenario.
Okay. Also, another request, if a circular could be sent across to all the schools that this kind of an exercise is going to be undertaken. So at least, the hub leaders also get more empowered, because I'll be honest, not all schools like to, cooperate where hub activities are concerned.
Right, ma'am, this is a very important piece of information, and Dr. Rama, if you're there in the session, then please
Yes,
take
ma'am.
note of
I
this.
have noted it.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
I also
so there is another.
said, because these other groups, they think it's the responsibility and the onus of the hub leader only. And then what happens is we are in a problem and we have to do everything we are doing. So, Roshi ma'am, I really second your opinion that you must send a letter from CBSE. If it goes, it will have some kind of force behind it. And please extend the date, not 4 days. 4 days, Anju ma'am, it's too short a time.
Yes.
Okay, we have another question on
I
the.
can, two things. One is that if
Hello?
the teachers could just do it amongst their own school also, that can work. Already as a practice, then they can do it amongst the hub leaders later. Can we
Yeah.
just get it going? That's my suggestion. So already,
Yes.
if if you're doing it with your own school and your own teachers, then you're already getting the hang of it, and that's what we want the ball to start rolling. And then you can later share it with other hub leaders, etc.
Yes.
There's one
Yes.
more question about. I think it is about the different levels which are there. And I think when we're talking about this kind of a project-based, doing real projects, you can have individual benchmarks for different children. For example, one child may go a little deeper into research, or one child may write a report which is longer. So you can always allow children to do their own things according to their levels, because you know from where the child is starting. And that is going to be a very fundamental thing for the holistic report card also, because a holistic report card cannot have a normative benchmark for everybody. If you're talking about inclusive education, it can't be normative. So I think right now we're not looking at reporting or assessment, we're only looking at the learning part of it. So let's just begin with whatever the child is doing, and in a group there may be differences. One child might like to do a little more, fair enough. Another teacher is asking whether it's valid for classes 1 to 5. Absolutely. One of the projects that we are currently also, I'm suggesting, is just to learn to make your mask, just to make a mask, a breathable, eco-friendly mask out of cloth for young children, because there's a lot of cutting, stitching, measurement, all these things come in. So there are a lot of things that you can do in a younger class at a simple level, So definitely for any class.
Miss Anju, there's another
Hello, ma'am.
question.
I have a
It
question.
says, uh,
Uh,
give me a second, please.
may I proceed? Okay, this is Kavita. So, ma'am, what I want to ask is, just now we were talking about assessment, right? So, fine, assessment can follow at a later space, but will the parameters come to us from your side? Because, see, ultimately, all learning must lead on to some sort of an assessment. If not at the school level, sometimes it's the pressure of the parents who want to know how the child is doing. My second
Absolutely.
query is
So
that
now, yeah.
since these are the days and times of online classes going on, right, ma'am? And is there any which way in which we can involve the parents, especially the moms of these small children who are there at home? And some of them have always shown a very eager, sense of participating in the teaching of their kids. So, is there some guideline through which we can also involve the parents in this entire teaching learning process? Because not in every corner of India,
okay, so
the children have complete access to.
Absolutely. In fact, that's why when we're talking about, okay, so let me just give you
What are your suggestions?
answers to both of them, and others can join in to add. Yes. So, ma'am, one thing about the progress card, you're talking about the parameters. Yes, the CBSE is in the process of creating the holistic report card, and that this holistic 360-degree holistic progress card is going to be qualitative, based on qualitative feedback, and rubrics which are teachers are going to be making based on the things that they are doing, as long as you are looking at the competencies are integrated into your learning. So that tracking will come to you. At this stage in the mapping, you can already see where all you're doing formative assessment, and even summative assessment, like a quiz can be a form of summative assessment. A role play can be a formative or a summative assessment also to keep the grades. It has already come in the newspapers, I'm told, by the central government, by the MOE, that the assessments now should be, because of the pandemic, it should be kind of fun-based, not written exams, obviously. So it is already being mentioned by the government itself. So I think to fulfill the objectives of the NEP 2020, the report cards will change in the months to come. What we are doing is we are parallel we are preparing, and your role as hub leaders and school leaders is very important, because you are creating the ground to ensure that this vision we are able to make the shift. Now, this transition may have its own challenges, but it's very important to do it in the benefit of children. You're talking about parents, and I think that's such a fundamentally important question, specifically because mothers are there, they're at home, there's a lot of anxiety going around, mera bacha pad raha hai, nahi pad raha hai, kaise pad raha hai, whatever. I think one of the things, like I showed about the cafeteria, even the cup of tea, making a lemonade with the mother is something that they can do, or making a cake or whatever. You can map the learning, or any healthy dish that the child wants to make with the parents. The idea about the experiential learning is precisely that they'll move away from the screen and they will go into their kitchens and they will do something, you know. So even when they're making a snack and they're putting baking soda in a snack, let's say in grade 6 or 7 level, they can look at what is the, you know, you put baking soda in your dhokla, or you put it in your, you know, idli. What does it do to it? So you're connecting. Kitchen was one thing that the MOE suggested also, connecting with kids' own homes and spaces. So this is just a thing right now. So if you create, that's why the mapping is important. Once you've done the mapping, you'll be able to say, all right, yahan par mothers can, or an adult help is required for the child, let's say, to do this in the kitchen. And anyway, the mothers are in the kitchen, so the kids can help them. And they can look at the track, do the surveys, do the interviews, track the, you know, food kaise ban raha hai, kya ban raha hai, usme kya chemical reactions hain, note them down, age appropriate, of course. So yes, there are ways, and I think it's a great suggestion. If you can do it, then hats off to you. And if
Miss
others
Anju,
are...
there's a
So much,
very
ma'am.
basic
Thank you so
question
much, ma'am.
on our chat box which
Very
asks,
basic.
what is experiential learning truly mean, and how virtual experience can help students understand problems in reality?
I think we need a whole new session for that.
But maybe you can
But
guide
yes.
her where she can look for more
So
information.
look, the experiential learning, of course, the father, if you're looking in the Western world, John Dewey would be the father of experiential learning, and he's written books like Experience in Education and The School and the Curriculum. Now, like I said, if you're interacting with the environment, you're shaping the environment is shaping you in many ways. This interaction is the form of experiential learning. When we're talking about an experience, there are good and bad experiences. So Dewey defines it, an experience as something where there is an energy and a purpose. If there's no purpose, I may be sitting and listening to you. That's a passive experience. It's also an experience. So I think more than when we're talking about experiential learning, that is why I use the term co-creative experiential learning, because only experiential learning, unfortunately, can lead us to also something passive or even negative. For example, fear, anything that is based on fear, and a lot of school educational systems are based on the negative emotion of fear, is also an experience. So what we're talking about is positive things, experience as a positive experience with positive emotions and understanding. And that, I feel personally, if you're asking me, I would say an experience engages your senses. That is why your visual, your auditory, your body, if your senses are not engaged, you're not active. And to me, that doesn't constitute a meaningful experience. So one aspect is the engagement of the different senses, and the other aspect of the experience would be something that is meaningful, that has a purpose. That, I think, is a good starting point, at least.
I will
Kriti ma'am,
add
if you
to it
need more
one.
detail,
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry.
Yeah, if
I
you
will just
want more detail, please go ahead and take a look at all the links that I've pasted in the chat box. There's a detailed overview of the course that's been done by Anju ma'am, and she has explicitly explained what is experiential learning in detail in those
yeah.
videos. And even in the course, the initial slides and all the 4 units will take you through the classroom implementation of the experiential learning pedagogy.
And also a lot of resources are shared there where other projects and other kinds of ideas are also shared. So you can definitely go through the Diksha platform and do the course and get more ideas. But I would just, one of the questions that had been asked earlier was also, there are a few students who are intelligent and even their parents don't show interest in any extracurricular activities. But I think Anju kind of answered the question by saying you need to engage their senses, and then the students will be able to, engage. And the beauty of experiential learning is that it is multi-level, and students who are very advanced can take it further a lot, and students who are very at the rudimentary stage of learning how to learn can take the basics, and still everyone can be in the same project space. Anju, you want to add any more to this?
Yes, there's a question on the chat box. What's the difference between learning by doing and experiential learning? These are all very tricky questions, because for me, doing is part of the experiential learning, but only doing may not be considered experiential learning, in the sense that if you're doing for the sake of doing, like an activity, if you remember, we had this whole movement called activity-based learning. When people started doing activity for the sake of activity, लेकिन वो activity का purpose क्या है? Why are we doing this? So you go outside, children play, कुछ physical करके आते हैं, and then you open your textbook and you start learning. That connection is not there. What's the connection between interconnectedness of the things that you're doing? So I think when you're talking about a project based experiential learning, you're giving it a larger structure also, where the different activities are interconnected. There's coherence. Otherwise, if you're just learning by doing is very much part of activity based learning, then what happens, that just becomes a short, you do one thing and then you do something totally different which is not connected. So like today's session, if we just do a metacognition on that and just drawing your attention to it, we were going to do on project mapping on a cup of tea. So I tried to do an immersive experience of imaginary one of drinking tea, for the simple reason that you're engaging your senses through your imagination. So that's a starter. It is linked to what I'm doing. So experiential learning is a larger thing. Learning by doing is just a small part of a larger thing. That's what I feel. Yes. Yes, that's right. Doing might just be mechanical, but that's thank Mr. Vivekanandan. Thank you for sharing your views. Thank you. That's right. Kriti
I
Singh
think
is
there is somebody asking from Delhi Public School from where to get the links. I'm going to post the link on this, all the links on this chat box again for you.
In addition, I think you also have the links in the YouTube CBSE channel, and you also have them in CBSE webinar blogspot. All of them, right? I mean, we will do all of it there.
Yes.
And Anusha, we have already sent these links to them in email also. All the hub leaders must have received an email having all these links.
About the Harappa, Indus Valley civilization, Egyptian civilizations, it's always part of every textbook and course content. Now, what I did was also with music, allowing children to imagine that they're going to that place and imagine what they're seeing, what they're feeling, looking at it, then reconstructing that experience through their imagination and then doing research on it. It doesn't invalidate it. It is just a memory, not a memory, it's an imaginary trip, and that's equally important to include that. So I think in the larger framework, let's include all different kinds of senses, physical as well as the non-physical. And to me, the non-physical are even more important, I would say. Okay, I'm done. I can keep speaking otherwise. But if anybody else wants to chip in, please feel free. Any comments or additions, please feel. It's nice. It's a great group.
Yeah.
And great discussions.
Bobby?
Okay, no more questions.
Yeah, I think as a team we also got excited because the numbers is really amazing, and the response and the activeness of this group is really encouraging. So I just want to, before we wrap up, want to say we'll meet next week, same time, and links and everything has been shared with you. And see you then. Meanwhile, get the experience of project mapping and share your experience with us on the blogspot. Thank you.
Thank you all very, very much for a very, very engaging session. Thank you.
Thank you, madams.
Thank you, Dr.